Joining me now is Representative and Chair of the Kentucky House's Small Business and Technology Committee. It's Diane St. Onge. Thanks so much for joining me, Representative.
Thank you for having me. Very pleased to be here.
Absolutely. And tell us, why is technology advancement important here in our state of Kentucky?
Well, technology advancement is currently going on. It is something which is, it's part of our present, it's part of our future. And Kentucky, I'll backtrack a little bit. I was on the West Coast in the Silicon Valley in the 70s and went to school there, and that whole movement was beginning. The excitement of that movement that has just grown. I think we in Kentucky are ripe for being able to embrace that. I think it's going to be good. We've got great people here. We've got, we're centrally located. We have so many reasons for why we should embrace this for our businesses, and I think it's a very exciting time out there, and it's a very exciting time for Kentucky to be able to become a leader in this as well.
And what is it about technology that has got you interested in that wave? You touched on it about that, but talk about that a little bit more.
Well, what I've seen, the growth in technology, and believe me, I was not a tech person prior to maybe even 10, 15 years ago. And just studying, just reading some of the things, seeing what's happening elsewhere in the country, around the world. I was privileged to be asked to be chair of this particular committee, and with that was able to travel to a particularly interesting conference that was held in San Francisco, and it was two companies that had merged. The name always escapes me. It's Global Communications something or other. There's a lot of letters to it, and this is an international convention that takes place, and it takes place for the first time. It took place in California for the Americas, but it also occurs in Europe, in Barcelona, and also in I think it was in Beijing, but I think it's moved this year. And it is fascinating. It is fascinating what they're doing with artificial intelligence and robotics and all the good that can come from this. And I think that this is something that we can, as I said before, embrace, as well as at the same time monitoring our privacy rights interests. So it's a fascinating field from a philosophical perspective and from a practical perspective.
And obviously during this particular session in Frankfurt, it's been a busy one, obviously.
Yes.
A lot of different things going on, but either during the session or some of the past ones, has there been any different types of technology-centered legislation that you've been able to introduce as a bill or into law?
Well, mainly what I've introduced bills with unmanned aerial systems, and so there are 3 that have been passed. And starting with last year, we had a bill which was making it safer for our airports, for landing and takeoff areas, our departure and our approach areas, that drones would not interfere with that. And in order to do that, it was a compliance with the local airports, but it conversely, it allowed drones to be within a 5-mile radius more than they would have been able to do before, by integrating the technology of being able to have on-time, real areas that you can and cannot go to as a drone operator by the airport. So that was last year. And then this year, a bill which is balancing privacy rights, interests, and drones. You may be familiar with that. It was House Bill 22. It's the 5th year that was introduced, and it was passed this year. So that one is a very important one. And then one that is closely related to that was also passed is it talks about trespass of UAS over our critical infrastructure, our key asset infrastructures, and that's very important for our safety and security for the Commonwealth. And so those were the main ones. In conjunction with that, not really directly related to an IT product type of legislation, we had a reorganization bill for our Commonwealth Office of Technology, which for security purposes and efficiency purposes is looking at, or is now allowed to have the various departments, different divisions, come under them only for the purpose of if they are integrating any type of software application. And so it's sort of an overview and management of that, so we don't have a lot of disparate entities buying, selling, buying software, maintaining software, and that therein you have a security interest. So this is, again, something I think which is very important to do. Small Business and IT is a new committee, and this is its second year, and we're looking forward to many more IT types of related issues coming through the committee.
And Representative, talk to us about your reaction to what's going on in Washington. That this past week, the big conversation started with Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook and digital privacy concerns. What's your reaction to that? And then also, as an elected official, what do your thoughts on your role as an advocate for people you represent in regards to digital privacy concerns?
Timely question. The the hearings were fascinating. If you had a chance to listen to the 2 days of that, what I could get from that is something which is a prevailing concern for constituents, for Kentuckians, for everyone, and again, that is that privacy rights, your ownership of the content that you are consenting to give, and that is. I think should be first and foremost when we're protecting the rights of all of us. And so, for example, Illinois has an act which deals specifically with the biometric facial recognition. And I, for the 2019 legislation, intend to have a bill introduced which deals with that as well, which really sets a little bit of a higher standard on the consent that you're giving for using the information that's being garnered from you on Facebook, for example. But it would apply to any type of app that you would be acquiescing to using. The biometric information is particularly important, I think, to make sure that we do address that. And for example, as I mentioned with Illinois, they have actually set their regulation is that if you have given this consent for a particular purpose to use this information, that once that purpose has been completed, then the information that has been stored for that is now destroyed. And if not destroyed then, at the very latest 3 years after the last meeting that you've had with that person. And if you do not do that, there would be repercussion in the courts. So I think that that's something that's important to do and to have to protect all of us. In the EU, their privacy standards are stronger actually than ours, are more stringent, what you have to meet to use information. And so that's something I think that, especially for biometric, is something that we need to proceed with and be ever on the lookout, because this it changes so quickly that as soon as we address legislation on one particular matter, it will come up in another area. It's like that. It's like whack-a-mole, but that does not give us and should not give us pause to move forward with addressing what we can now, because that's essential, I think, to maintaining the security, the safety, the privacy of our Commonwealth folks.
Well, Representative, we really appreciate you making time. Obviously, you've had a busy few months down in Frankfort with the legislative session, so thanks for making time for joining us here on In Focus Kentucky.
Thank you for having me, Mario. It's been a pleasure.
You bet. Thanks for watching In Focus Kentucky. You can watch this or any of our past shows online at SpectrumInFocus.com. And of course, you can follow me on Facebook and Twitter. Just search @Mario Anderson TV to keep up with updates about this show. Have a great week.